Hey y'all, how y'all doing today? This is Maurice.
And this is Kafa.
And you're now listening to
the NoFruitPodcast.
And you can find us on
social media, such things as Fit, that's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And you can listen to us on
all platforms where you can listen to podcasts. We're on most of those, so check us out, everybody.
And when can you listen to us?
We have a new podcast that uploads every Thursday at 6 a.m.
Yes, but you can listen to us every day because they don't go away.
1, 2, 3, 4 times a day.
So, y'all, we thank y'all for tuning in with us today. Today we have a special guest.
Yes.
We've known this young lady for quite some time. I really like her spirit. She's really outgoing. She's really fun. She's, as she says, she's goofy. But she likes to laugh, have a good time. And she is an author of a book called Got Fruit. So it's funny because, I saw the advertisement for her book, Got Fruit. I'm like, wow, she should be on the No Fruit Podcast.
That's right.
So she is a member of the Free Will Baptist Church, and I'll let her talk about all that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can find her on social media, and she's going to point all that out to y'all. But we would like to really introduce
and present to some
y'all
Torre Adams. Welcome,
Good
welcome.
Afternoon. Good afternoon. Hey, brother. Hey, sister.
Hello. So glad to have you on. And
thank you guys so much for having me on and for all the just appreciate how you guys have been supporting since the book came out.
Yes.
So.
Most definitely.
Yeah. I mean, so how has it been, being recognized as an author?
It's pretty surreal, actually. Like you said, I'm kind of goofy, so to put that title on me is it's a little strange, but it feels good. It feels good after such a long time, too. About talking about the book and it actually coming to fruition. So
tell us a little about that.
Amazing.
How, when did the vision come and how did you, I'm sure with prayer and supplication, you worked through it, but tell us a little bit about how you came about writing this book.
Yeah, it was a long process.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long process that involved some slacking, disobedience.
Really?
Yeah.
Torre?
Yeah. Me. Right? It's funny. It came about, I was in Bible school. I think I started in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually had to do an assignment, and I did it on the fruit of the Spirit.
Okay.
And ever since then, it just kind of stuck with me, especially when you're a babe in the Word, that sometimes it's a little challenging to read the Word and understand it. But that was something that just stood out. It was understandable, and it seemed really applicable.
Right.
And so it just marinated in my spirit over the course, and I had been talking about writing a devotional, and it was going to be on that, but
okay.
Yeah, but as it progressed, it just turned out to become a book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A friend of mine actually wrote a book.
Okay.
And she was telling me about it, and goofy me, I just announced one day I'm going to write a book.
Right.
But be careful what you say.
Right.
Because words do have power.
They do.
And so I said it in front of some of the wrong people, like my sister, of course, Monica.
Mm-hmm. And she kept pushing.
Yeah, she wrote me.
Mm-hmm.
And even Tina was very encouraging all the time. So it took a long time, actually, because a little bit of procrastination and then a lot of, you have your everyday things going on with work and school, But it started to really, I really began to get convicted by it because I had been talking about it for so long. And so the Lord was like, it's time to stop talking about it and start being about it.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
So how long would you say it had taken you to actually write the book itself?
Actually, I probably had the first chapter written for a couple of years, actually.
Right,
okay.
because it was an assignment from school, correct?
Correct.
All right.
And in my first time I preached, I actually did it on the fruit of the Spirit.
Okay.
So it just started, it was there. But then I graduated in last May of 19 with my master's in divinity. And so I would say probably a year before then, I started to get a little serious. And then I started to get more and more convicted.
Okay.
So I said, I'm going to finish this thing before I walk down the aisle. So I finished the last chapter the week before I graduated.
Okay.
Yeah. So
tell us a little bit about the book. Tell us what we.
Well, Got Fruit, that old commercial about got milk.
Yes.
Right.
Even though I don't like milk.
Yeah, right.
Milk does a body good.
The thing about the fruit of the Spirit, it was something that was, as the book is called Got Fruit, it's a practical guide to living your life through the fruit of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. And so we know that even as believers, we're in this world, but not of it. And so we have to carry ourselves accordingly. And we're required to be the representatives of Christ on this earth.
Right.
And so the fruit of the Spirit is something that is practical, because let's face it, we don't every day, all day, we don't feel like being spiritual. When people get on our nerves, we don't feel like being spiritual, but we have to remember who we're representing.
Right.
And so these are some of the things that allow us to be able to kind of guide our walk.
Right.
And of course, they're called the fruit of the Spirit because they're His Spirit.
Right.
And so it's no happenstance to me. I think that love is the first one, because if you love like He does, then that just catapults you into the rest of them. It enables you to be able to pull the other ones off if you have love.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so,
and one of the first things you learn as a child, that God is love. You know
absolutely.
what I mean? So that's one of the first things that and you wear your little heart stickers and all that little, all those types of things. True. So, that is true that, you need that love first.
Yeah, and what was an epiphany for me, actually, is that I talk about it in the first chapter about my grandmother. Mm-hmm. And so even as when we're young, I talk about her spirit and how she was, and how she loved everybody and every one of the fruits of the Spirit she had. But, of course, as a child, you don't know that. I just know that's my grandmother. And I know what she does and how she makes me feel. And so it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized that she embodied all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you were blessed to have her in your life,
I certainly was.
So
she definitely is. Being at her apron strings has really been a blessing, because she showed me what that looked like. She showed me what love looked like. And we know that love is an action word.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so she put it in action my entire life. And so I see that it can be attainable.
Right.
So let me ask you this. I mean, one of the things that you say is it provides practical application, right? So how would you apply it in just today's place right now, because it's so crazy right now and people are fearful and things like that? How would you suggest that any of this book can uplift someone? Well, how do you think? How would you explain that?
Well, in the book, I split it up in chapters with regard to every facet of your life. The fruit in your life as far as work and your family, your friends, your relationship, even the church, how we ought to love in those different relationships. And so in this day and age, we see, especially right now, what's going on.
Right.
Is that as believers, we have to show hope. We have the hope.
Right.
And so even though this is a little disconcerting to us and we're trying to gain our footing as far as, what's going to happen, we have to look at everything that God is in charge.
Right.
And He makes no mistakes, and He is all powerful.
Right. And He loves
He's
us.
all knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then with that love, then everything else comes. You get that joy, you get that peace. And that's what we all need right now, is some joy and some peace.
You are not kidding. You're not kidding.
But again, like you stated, it starts with the love.
Right. Mm-hmm. Even self-control now.
Yes.
Because we have, our mind can run rampant in this time. And my life scripture is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, to trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not unto thy own understanding.
That's right.
Right.
But in all our ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct our paths. And it didn't mean in just the good times.
Right.
It means in the bad times. It meant in the times that we don't understand. And it said lean not into our own understanding. And that's because we do not understand much.
It. Right. You better preach now. Come on now.
The Reverend Dr. Torre Lynn Adams.
Exactly. Yes.
But I have found in these last few, even this last week or two, that you really do. You know, we spend a lot of time singing the word. We spend a lot of time putting it on Facebook,
right,
and reading it. But now this is the opportunity for us to put it into action, because people that don't have hope, people who don't know who Christ is, are watching. And so for them to see us walking around with a peace, even in the midst of this, that's our opportunity to be able to minister to somebody and to witness to somebody. Like, how are you getting through all of this? You don't, this is why. Because I know he has my back. This is why, because the love he has for me is tells me that he's going to provide for my every need according to his riches and glory. It tells me that he's going to give me peace that passes all understanding. And this is the time, like you said, Kafa, that we need that peace.
We do. We certainly do.
We need it. To know that he's still on the throne.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said, and just being a light to other people who don't know.
Exactly.
That's
what we have to do.
As we hear that so many churches are closing their doors because the government says they have to. So they need to see Christ, and they see Christ through us and through our actions and through what we do. So we have to certainly show love and show joy, even in sorrowful times. We have to show that joy and have peace. So, all right. So we're moving on down. We done talked about love. We talked about joy, peace. What about forbearance?
What about, I'm sorry, I didn't
forbearance.
Hear you. All of these things, they're challenging.
They are.
No one said that they're not. These things are going to come. There's long suffering that we have to endure.
Right. And I think this is one of our times.
When you said forbearance, I was only thinking about my student loans.
Oh no. that might come too. Wait a minute.
That's long suffering. Yeah.
Yes. So yes, our long suffering. Yes.
Yeah, but that is now more than ever. Our faithfulness to be faithful to Him no matter what.
Right. And be faithful one to another as well. I think it goes beyond. Maurice and I sometimes talk on the podcast about being a married couple, and being faithful to one another, being faithful to our kids, and being present, and all those things as well. So, like you're stating, it's a life application. It applies and is applicable to so many different aspects.
Because it allows you to be able to pull it off even when you're not feeling spiritual, to know who you're representing.
Right.
And it talks about the fruit of the Spirit. It doesn't say fruits because it's one entity. It's all of them together. It's a collection of things. And so we can pull it off with His Spirit. That's the thing that enables us to be able to do it continuously.
Right.
Because we can all be kind or goodness or good, for a certain period of time. We can all have some self-control for a moment. But when we allow the Spirit to work in us, then we can have that self-control. Like right now, not to go out and rob something, to go out and to just be able to endure in His Spirit, knowing that He's in charge, knowing that He has it in every aspect of our lives. So we're put to the test this day.
Right.
Yeah, and
more than ever before.
And I think as I'm listening to you, one of the things that comes to my mind, and we talked about this in our podcast that came out today, in reference to being faithful, and being encouraged, especially in something that you can't see. Like right now, everybody is, they're so caught up in what they can see and what they can feel and touch. So as you're talking about just being faithful and believing, that's something that you can't touch necessarily, quote unquote. I mean, you touch it every day. You feel it every day, but people don't put it people need to put it in a physical sense and not in a spiritual sense. Absolutely. So in that, how would you encourage someone that's struggling with that?
Just struggling with being able to for our spirit to be able to stay in that place no matter what.
Right. Yeah.
That's why he gave us it's 66 books of examples of all of these things.
Right.
And I think now, I told somebody yesterday that we've been dumped right into the middle of the Old Testament with plagues and all these kind of things.
Right.
But we read the word, and the Bible is a story of redemption, and it's a beautiful love story, but it is practical, and it's stories and all of those things. And so all the examples in there, you can find whatever you're going through in there. And if we're talking about people of faith, now we have to put our faith to action.
Right. Right.
We really have to do, if we have been singing about it and saying, I will trust you.
Right.
I'll trust in the Lord until I die. Well, this is what it means to trust him in the midst of adversity. And no, the whole point of the book for me is to make it practical because it's not always easy.
Right.
That's real talk.
Right.
Even for the saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Spirit, sometimes you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. You don't feel like it.
You're right about that.
You have to go to work and endure with those people that you work with, your boss that gets on your nerves or whatever you have to do. But we have to be mindful who we are representing. And if we really mean that we trust him, then we have to show it.
Right.
We can't be wishy-washy like it says in James. We can't be that way. We can't ride the fence. This is the time where we have to be on the right side of the fence.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Tori, and not to really get totally off the subject, but I'm gonna be honest with you and tell me how you feel about this. The other day, with everything kind of going on, I said to Kafa, I think we missed the rapture. Do you feel like do you feel that way too?
No.
No, and I'm only saying that only because when you pay attention to everything that's going on, it's just like, yo, did we miss it? Like, what did we get so consumed that we didn't get caught up? Like, what's going on? Only because of it's just so crazy out here right now. And for those persons that talk about they do believe, and some of our religious leaders, like, they're getting caught up in the madness also. So as I look at social media, it is a whirlwind of a little bit of everything, literally. And people getting so caught up in it, in the drama. I've seen people talk about, hey, like, this is not the time to start your ministry, things like that. It's like, what are you talking about? Now would be the time to do that.
Wow.
Yeah, you have
to be careful what you let in your spirit.
Oh, yeah.
You really do. And, I mean, we say that there's so much going on now, but like I said, 66 books of stuff that have been going on from the beginning of time. And a lot of these stories are, we read them as stories, but the things that happened were crazy things.
Right.
Were things that you could not wrap your mind around. And so it should not be surprising to us that these things are happening.
Right, because it's already written.
I mean, because if you just take a look at Moses by himself, like, what stuff did they go through at that time?
All the stuff that happened in the first book. You should be in Genesis, the first book. In my Bible study, we started from the beginning, and we're doing Genesis. From the first book, from Adam and Eve, there was drama.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
It's not. But when you have to, that's why you have to know the word for yourself.
Yes.
And you have to have a personal relationship with God, because when all of this stuff is going on, that's how people are led astray, by listening to the wrong thing.
Right.
He said, my sheep know my voice, and the stranger they will not follow. So when we have a relationship with him, we know what he's saying to us.
Right. And we have to beware of false prophets and people who are putting out stuff.
All of that stuff on Facebook and Twitter and all of those things, everybody is not right. But when you have a relationship with him, then your spirit is not going to sit well with some of the stuff that you see and some of the stuff that you hear.
Right.
And you can't allow it to get into your spirit either. The other day at work, it was getting so crazy, and everybody around you is just so walking around with their hands up with gloves like they're surgeon and stuff. But it was so much.
Yes.
So I had to go into the bathroom, and I was just like, he did not give me a spirit of fear. Because if I had sat there and listened to all of that and allowed that to get into my spirit, I would have been just like them. But I had to remove myself from that and remind myself who he was and what he did in me. And then I had to throw up the deuce sign and say, I'm out. I need some air. I had to get out of here, but I had to remove myself from it, because otherwise you will go crazy.
Right.
And so that's the thing about that self-control and staying, knowing who he is in the midst of all of this, because we can't act like the world and be getting paranoid. And I know we have to use wisdom, absolutely. And we have to listen to the professionals, absolutely.
And I think just to tie it in. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, just to tie it back into the book, I think if we are fearful, then we're weak. And we can't be fruitful if we're weak. There, whatever plant I'm trying to grow, if it's weak, it's not going to grow. It can't be fruitful. The flowers are not going to bloom on it because it's weak. So I think if we're fearful, then we can't be faithful. If we're fearful, then God's not in fear. So therefore, it's not going to grow and it's not going to bloom. And then, as you're stating, we can't have all of the fruit of the Spirit because we're in fear. So I don't see how we can have love and joy and patience and, all of these things if we are nervous.
Where we are jammed up.
We're nervous about tomorrow, and we're nervous about, the next paycheck, or we're nervous about if we have enough toilet paper. Lord Jesus.
Right.
So...
Amen.
And if people are like in the markets and walking around with, like you said, masks on and gloves on, but is that really protecting you, or is Jesus going to protect you? Is the blood going to protect you? So saints, we just got to get right. That's all.
Right. And I mean, and real talk, fear does creep up sometimes. We ought not act like it doesn't exist. It speaks about it. If he said, don't be fearful, that means he knows that is something that exists. The enemy will use that against you, but it does. But you have to use your weapons of warfare and your tools when those things, that's what I had to do. I had to remove myself from the situation and from all of that chatter and remind myself that that's not the spirit that he gave me.
That sounds like the next book, Tori.
So, is there a part 2? Okay, we'll talk about that later. We're not gonna put you on the spot like that.
Praise God. But I will say, if it is a part 2, it will not take 10 years this time. I will be obedient this time.
Yo, that's funny.
Yes.
That's funny. So we really appreciate you, Tori. We really appreciate you taking out your time with us today.
So
I really appreciate you guys. This is fun, and I appreciate your from the moment you saw it on Facebook, just promoting it for me and encouragement. So I appreciate that.
So with all that, so those who are listening and they want to pick up a copy of Got Fruit, how can they do that?
Well, it is available on Amazon and under my name, which is Torre Adams. That's TorreAdams. And it's called Got Fruit. And for anyone who's looking on it, it's a big peach on the front of the cover because I do believe there's another book called Got Fruit, but just so you know which one it is.
Okay.
And you can reach me on Facebook under Torre Lynn Adams. That's TorreLynnAdams.
And just for just to clear it up a little bit, also on your Amazon, it does say Torre Lynn on there. So just it says Torre Lynn Adams. So make sure if you can't find the Torre Adams, look for Torre Lynn also. So
absolutely,
just make sure you get her government name right as you're looking it up.
Right. Government name.
Right.
So lastly, I know you have done some book signings and you've gone out and done some talks, things like that. So if people are interested in bringing you into their church or to their group, women's group or men's group, whatever it may be, how do they reach out to you? Again, with Facebook, is there any other way that they can reach out to you?
Certainly. They can reach me on Facebook, and they can also email me at TorreAdams68@gmail.com. So either one of those, and I do check my email now often.
Okay, all right.
Not so much before. That's all right.
Now
you're a work in progress. Yes.
Because
right.
that pause was a little interesting.
I do check it now. I do check it. So.
That's good.
Yeah,
because you got to check it to make sure those checks came in.
Those royalties. Right.
Amen. Now more than ever.
Right.
Yes.
So, like I said, Torre, we greatly appreciate you, and for our listeners out there, make sure you support our sister right here, Torre Lynn Adams. Her book is now available on Amazon. It's been there since November 17th, 2019. Just make sure that y'all check it out. And also like, share, and subscribe it too. Don't just get it for yourself. Like, buy it for your neighbor.
Amen.
Amen.
You get what I mean? Buy it for your Bible studies.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And I think that's definitely, I think I put that on Facebook if anyone was interested in that. Because I think the way I set it up is a good way for you to be able to do that, because each chapter dives into a different facet of our lives,
right.
How to deal with your work, how to deal with your family members,
right?
How to with your friends. Love, like we said, love is an action word, and everyone has a different love language. And so once we know people's love language, it's easier for us to know how to deal with them, because we have to remember that we are His witness to everyone around us.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And building His kingdom is the most important thing. That's what we're supposed to do. And so by any means necessary, we have to know how to be able to deal with all kinds of people and from every facet of our lives, and to represent Him well in each one of them. So.
Right. So, yeah, we're going to definitely have you back, Torre.
Thank you. I enjoyed this. This was fun.
Yeah, we definitely will be. So, again, make sure y'all follow her on... You're on Facebook, Instagram. You're on Twitter too, right?
I am.
Okay.
I'm on those. I must say Facebook is probably the best way to get me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she gave you her email address, and make sure you cop that book today, y'all. We thank y'all very much for tuning in today.
We love you.
And this is Maurice.
And this is Kafa.
And make sure you stay fit with
Facebook,
NoFruit Podcast.
Instagram, and Twitter. Take care.
All right, y'all. Peace.
God bless.